Hello, thanks very much for joining us. I am Nigel Dharamlall. We continue to look at government's first year in office. We look in the area of local government. Now I've got with me Minister Nigel Dharamlall. Minister, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, Leroy, and I'm happy to be here. Just a little walked after so many days of traveling all over the country.
Well, I know that's a big part. It's coming in. It's the Because We Care grant, and then you've had flood before then. Wow. How has it been?
I think most importantly, it's part of my job. I'm responsible for the 10 regions, the 70 NDCs, and the 10 towns of the country. So naturally, I'll have to be across the country, into villages, meeting with people, listening to their issues, and in part, on behalf of the government, on how we could address many of the issues that people raise. The President expects no less from me and from any of his ministers. He himself has been out across the country, so it is imperative and important that we are out amongst our people, getting to understand what their concerns are. And we believe that the best way to resolve people's issues, and even more so to address them, would be to be on the ground, to have a better understanding of what is happening. We do not run a government on remote control, but we run a government that is bottom-up, a government that is responsive, and a government that is accessible. So as Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, I see that as part of my role to be on the ground in the villages, meeting with our people, dealing with their issues.
It's interesting getting in there and talking to so many people from so many different backgrounds, cultures, everything. You've got to sit and look at. How do you find that balance to deal with and address all of these issues?
Well, our government believes in some core principles. One of which has to do with we treat all Guyanese as Guyanese, and we do not discriminate in the services that we provide. We do not discriminate in the investments that we pursue. And for all intents and purposes, we have a country to build, and all of us will have to be involved in building this country. So that is why you'd find us in any community, in every community, in all walks of life, amongst all classes of people. What is important for us is getting to the bottom of the issues and being able to deal with them from the root up.
That's interesting. You put it that way. All right, Minister. There's so many things, but when we talk local government, the first thing that will jump to mind for most people is a local government election. And everybody's going to ask you the question, are we going to have a local government? When are we going to have it? What's the position over the past year dealing with this issue, having come out of March 2nd?
Well, March 2nd has been, 2020 has been something very historic in democracy in our country, and the way that some agents within our country tried to destabilize the democratic process by seeking to rig or attempt to rig the 2020 elections. In terms of local government elections, those elections were slated to be held or are slated to be held in November of this year. However, our government's position has been very clear. We, despite us putting resources to local government elections, budgetary allocations have been made for the conduct of local government elections. Our position is that we will not participate with people like Lowenfield, Mingo, and Myers still at the helm of 𝐎𝐍𝐄, at the Secretariat level. So as soon as the Secretariat has been reformed and we have credible, impartial, professional people at the helm of 𝐎𝐍𝐄, then I think Guyana can have proper elections. 𝐎𝐍𝐄 conducts the elections, and with the top brass of 𝐎𝐍𝐄 mired in controversy, some before the court for criminal conduct, then I do not think that we can participate in a process that would include those types of people, and they would be very instrumental in the conduct of elections.
So we're looking at an election after the reform of 𝐎𝐍𝐄. And there's been so much said on 𝐎𝐍𝐄 from the observers, the independent missions that were here, and recommendations as well in terms of a reform going forward there.
Yes, naturally. But I think the most important thing regarding elections in our country would have to be credible people conducting the elections. We have quite a wide array of regulations and laws that cover elections, whether national and regional, whether at the local government level. But the problem that we have is that we do not have in our country at the Secretariat of 𝐎𝐍𝐄, especially in the upper echelons, the people who direct the workings of 𝐎𝐍𝐄. We do not have confidence that they would be impartial and professional in the conduct of elections. So I think until the Guyana Elections Commission, the commissioners, have made a decision on the termination of or the dispensation of those services by the individuals who are currently before the courts, I think until such time we will continue to manage the local government system in a way that brings benefit to everyone.
Well, while that happens, we watch to wait to see what's going to come out of that. Let me take you away from that for a moment. You look into towns and cities and NDCs and the different municipalities. What would you say was perhaps the biggest challenge in terms of working with these bodies?
Well, I've actually had a history working in the local government system previously. I had served as the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And at the level of being minister now, we still have tremendous challenges of people understanding their roles. I believe that there has been an issue where a lot of the chairs of councils, whether municipal councils or neighborhood democratic councils, I do not think that until at this time, after so many years, they are still feeling their way in terms of the legitimacy of their actions, in terms of their own responsibility, in terms of their statutory functions. I believe that there has to be more work done to ensure that more people get involved. There is greater ownership of communities and the actions that are pursued in those communities. One of the things that we have done as government is to work directly now in many villages. We have been able to establish in excess of 184 community development groups within different communities in some regions. That budgetary-wise will be intensified as we move along. In that way, we are able to connect directly with the issues on the ground, and the LDOs or the NDCs or municipalities would not serve as a ruse on the issues on the ground. Our approach too is that we work through the NDCs and the municipalities. I found that many of them have been conducting themselves very, very partially. They have not been dealing with people's issues, but rather the political interests of the parties or party that they represent. In the case of Georgetown, that has posed a tremendous challenge to all governments across many a number of years. Georgetown is still probably the biggest issue for us. However, as soon as President Ali took office, he established a cabinet task force that looked over or has to look over the development of Georgetown. It includes myself, the Minister of Agriculture, Public Works, and Home Affairs. And we've had quite a few meetings on how we will work with the city of Georgetown to elevate its current circumstances. We have issues of garbage disposal and collection, which is still one of the biggest issues in Georgetown. The city council spends in excess of $125,000 per month collecting and disposing of garbage. The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, we spend about the same amount to manage the 𝐎𝐍𝐄 dump site, or landfill facility, sorry. We also, something new that we're doing this year, we have gone into the different regions to start paying for the management of the landfills in the regions. So in region 2, we have 2 landfills at Charity and at Lima, and we're looking to construct a third one in region 2 as well. We are in the discussion phases to have one in region 3, because almost all of the garbage in region 3 comes across at 𝐎𝐍𝐄. Region 5, we're looking to also to have 1 or 2 constructed. Region 6, we are paying for the operations of 3 in Bellevue, Esplanade, and at Rose Hall. We are also paying for the one in Letham. We are now paying for the one, well, we're continuing to pay for the operations at Lusignan and at Bartica as well. So a lot of resources this year would be spent too on upgrading these facilities, right, because that is an image issue for our country. We find that Georgetown has been very reluctant, the city council has been very reluctant to deal with the issue of garbage in the city of Georgetown. I also believe that the responsibility of those who reside and work in Georgetown, including those who own businesses in Georgetown, they also have to take that responsibility to keep our city clean. And I do not find that that has been happening. As a matter of fact, what we've seen over the last 10 months is that the city council itself has been very reluctant to deal with this issue.
So how then do you intend to treat with the city council in terms of having these issues covered? Garbage collection, and of course, the city council says, well, it's not getting rates and taxes. How then, from your level, do you plan to address that? What solutions do you think can be put in place for that?
Well, the city of Georgetown is governed by a council. And I've been in engagements with the city council for quite a number of engagements, actually. I've had about 5 engagements, some at the entire council level, and some with the mayor and deputy mayor and other councillors, and the management of the city. We have laid clear our issues as government representing people and how we expect the city to be managed. We put a lot of resources, the government that is, a lot of resources in the city of Georgetown. Only recently we provided 30 million towards the construction of an administrative building. This is in addition to 65 million that the government provided previously. We expect that that building is going to be finished by this year or early next year. The reason why we are constructing an admin building is because the administration of City Hall, most of it is still within City Hall itself. And City Hall is slated for restoration. We have budgeted $100 million this year to go towards restoration of the City Hall building. We have a tender out. We are expecting that as many persons who are interested to restore. It's going to be a very delicate work, inclusive of a lot of expertise. So that is going to be a legacy project for us. The president himself has met with the mayor and deputy mayor and others from City Hall. One of the things that we intend to pursue very soon is a collaboration amongst a wider stakeholdership, including the private sector and including the citizenry of Georgetown, on how we can elevate Georgetown and make it more modern, whilst at the same time it retains its historical value.
You spoke about having to inject this money into City Hall to rehabilitate or try to bring some amount of respectability back to that historic landmark. But outside of looking at that in its entirety and giving money to City Hall, is there a plan to say, hey, could we or could you as the council sit with us and we chart a roadmap that says this year we're going to do this year we're going to project that? Or is there some amount of fight back or pushback for a suggestion like that coming from central government?
Well, central government has been doing that. Like I said, the president met with City Hall, myself and other ministers of government, we have met with City Hall. And the greater plan for our country, Georgetown is included in that greater plan for our country. His Excellency's position is that we have to build the physical infrastructure of Georgetown, as we will have to do in all other towns and villages of our country. We have met so many times with City Hall, outline our position on infrastructural development. We will do the heavy lifting, that is the government will do the heavy lifting. This is despite that being a responsibility of the city of Georgetown. On road construction, the Ministry of Public Works has been heavily involved in road construction, likewise the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development in terms of other issues of the city. The Ministry of Agriculture through the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority. They have been involved in practically all of the drainage infrastructure maintenance and even upgrade, the situation where when we had the flood recently, the pumps were actually being supervised by the Ministry of Agriculture because we could not have the City Hall determine the management because they actually have no management systems in place. So it is going to take a while for us to get over these hurdles. We are not going to give City Hall money directly because they have not been very forthcoming with how they spend taxpayers' monies. So we are going to be doing a lot of the funding. Whilst we agree on what projects have to be done, the government will be spending a lot of the resources directly, of course, with the concurrence of City Hall on the different projects that we are pursuing.
Let's look to the next year, going into the end of 5 years at the policy level. And then, of course, a projection. What are some of the major projects that we can expect coming out of the local government ministry, whether it be a continuation of something or an improvement or the start of a new project?
So we made some commitments when we campaigned, and we have been pursuing the manifestation of those commitments. Insofar as our sector is concerned, we have been able to, with the resources already, at least for this year, we have been able to employ in the regions, just on capital projects, in excess of 5,500 persons. Directly in the ministry, which is the overseer of the regions, we have been able to employ an additional 1,800 persons. This is all part of our agenda to have about 50,000 jobs created in this first 5 years of our governance, our cycle. So we are making that contribution, and this is done on the basis of infrastructural improvement at the community level, livelihood opportunities being created at the community level, also in terms of services that are being offered at the community level. We believe that those things go a far way in building greater communities, right, to the extent that people's social and welfare development become mainstream. Whilst we build roads and we build bridges and we build schools and hospitals, we also have to add value to the lifestyle of people. And Guyana is at a stage where we are being transformed, and part of our policy is to engage in regional economic and infrastructural transformation, and the investments that we are currently pursuing, both in terms of the physical and the non-tangible investments. You can see, and the benefits are already accruing in terms of where we would like to go. Our position is we have to open up the economy. We have to make sure that more jobs are created. We have to make sure that wealth is generated. We have to make sure that there is safety and security in all of our villages all across the country.
Minister of Local Government, Nigel Dharamlall, thanks very much for chatting with us. You've done a bit. You've got a lot more to do. I wish you the best going forward, and congratulations on the achievements in your first year.
Thank you, Leroy, and we are very happy for what we have already achieved in this first year. There is much more to be done, and we are going to be doing much more. Our budgetary allocations are going to be increased just so that we can be able to treat with many of the issues that affect people. We also have the pandemic to deal with. We had the other jeopardy, which was the floods, but this pandemic, I just like to encourage all outside there to continue to wear your mask, sanitize. Most importantly, the most potent defense against COVID is vaccine. So please ensure that you get vaccinated. We would like to get to a point of normalcy where the economy can be open, more work can be done, jobs created. Please get vaccinated.
Thank you very much. A pleasure, Minister Nigel Dharamlall, Minister of Local Government. I am Leroy Brumwell. Thanks very much for joining us. And remember, we're continuing to look at government's first year in office. Remember to be safe. Have a good one.